welcome you to our first orientation. This is such a great idea that Governor-elect Kathy had, and she's been meeting with the past governors to put this to fruition and bring it to our southern region. So we couldn't be more excited to host this evening. And so without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to past Governor Pat McKay and Priscilla Tatarski, as I believe they are showing the first presentation.
All right, well, since Pat and I were governors back to back, we spent lots of time together, working together. So of course, once again, we had to share a presentation when we do this for the leadership. So I'm going to begin, and I'm going to share my screen for the PowerPoint that we've presented so we can get started. Now, can people see the PowerPoint on your screen now? Oops.
Yes.
Wrong way. Hold on.
Yes,
There.
we see it.
All right, good. So we're starting with the very basics: who, what, when, where, and why of Soroptimist. And we're just pretty briefly going over the different levels of Soroptimist and what each level does and what you can expect from different levels. And as you know, since we're celebrating our 100-year anniversary, Soroptimist was founded in 1921 in Oakland, California. First club had 80 business and professional women, and it was SI of Alameda County. Their first project was to save the redwoods, which resulted in a major part of the forest being set aside as protected lands in California. In the next 5 years, 15 more clubs were formed with more emphasis on concern for women in their communities. And the first European club, because, you know, when they first founded the first club, they wanted to make sure it was made international. And so they did with the first European club, SI of Paris, in 1924. And just to be very basic, SI is Soroptimist International. You know, we use abbreviations all the time, but we have Soroptimist International, worldwide volunteer service organization for women who work for peace, and in particular to improve the lives of women and girls in local communities and throughout the world. It started 100 years ago with one club in California. It now has around 72,000 members in 121 countries worldwide. Through its general consultative status as a non-governmental organization at the United Nations, the organization seeks equality, peace, and international goodwill for women. The vision is women and girls will achieve their individual and collective potential, realize aspirations, and have an equal voice in creating strong, peaceful communities worldwide, with the principles to strive for the advancement of the status of women, high ethical standards, human rights for all, equality, development and peace, and the advancement of international understanding, goodwill, and peace. The leadership of Soroptimist International is a 2-year term, with the president being rotated between the federations. And for this 2-year term, Sharon Fisher, who is from our federation, she's from Western Canada region. She's a former SIA president, and she has been the president for these past 2 years. The Soroptimist International is headquartered in Cambridge, England, with just a small office staff, because the federations do their own governing and stuff, but International brings everybody together and always has an international project also. And the board of members of Soroptimist International has members from each federation, usually the president of each federation, and then the president-elect or past president or something like that as the governing body of Soroptimist International. And the picture is of President Sarah Fisher that you may have seen through our federation. her project, it's called, you might have heard it, the December 10th appeal, the President's appeal. It's known by different names, and it revolves around December 10th, the Human Rights Day or United Nations Day. And it's a day that Soroptimist International presidents ask people to sacrifice something to help women worldwide. And there have been lots of projects in the past. Every president has her own. I think the last president had Women, Water, and Leadership. You might remember hearing about. Long ago, they dug wells for women. Birthing in the Pacific was another recent one you might have heard of. But President Sharon's is the Road to Equality. And you can see on the screen what different topics they're tackling to focus on taking action and advocating on these topics. And the appeal incorporates a mix of projects alongside information and education to build awareness and engage Soroptimists and friends through discussion. I don't know if I've tuned into webinars that they've given. You've probably heard about them. Many of you may not have tuned into them, but they've had webinars on each of these topics with different women from around the world that have been in charge. We've been working with an organization in the area that this project is taking place. So there's a Soroptimist and another organization that work together, and they've been having webinars on these, and it's so interesting. So if you want to find out more about these projects and what they do, you could look on YouTube and find them if you just look at SI Voices on YouTube, you will find the webinars that they have done. And I highly recommend that you do that. Through access to tools, facts, and stories, we believe that each of us will be able to raise our capacity to be a global voice for women on our journey towards achieving gender equality. The topics and page, well, hold on. And then to hear more, you can also go into Soroptimist International website, which is soroptimistinternational.org, and look under the SI Voices, and there will be the podcasts and webinars there. And I'm going to talk about this a little later, but it is wonderful to just sit back and be a little bug on the wall during these webinars, because literally women all over the world are there and speaking and working together and asking questions and discussing and everything. And it's really a powerful hour or however long that the webinar is to do and to see. Pat, it's all yours.
It's all mine. Thank you. Can everybody hear me? I unmuted, so hopefully it works. And Priscilla, you'll have to advance since it's your PowerPoint if you don't mind. Not now, because I'm going to speak to this one. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. I am just thrilled to be presenting this particular slide. Did any of you know before tonight that Soroptimist International has a seat at the United Nations? I can't even say it. I'm so excited. The Commission on the Status of Women, and the acronym is CSW, as you can see on the screen, was established by the UN in 1946, is the principal global intergovernmental body, that's a mouthful, exclusively dedicated to the promotion of gender equality and the empowerment of women. That just says it all, I think, as far as what we need to be doing in this world. With this as its focus, its mandate includes drafting recommendations and reports to the Council on promoting women's rights, the monitoring of implementation of measures for the advancement of women, and the identification of issues affecting gender equality. Furthermore, CSW takes a leading role in monitoring and reviewing progress and problems in the implementation of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, and in mainstreaming a gender perspective in all UN activities. I don't know what that says to you, but what it says to me is that we as women need all the representation we can get. And I'm thrilled that Soroptimist International allows us that capability. I want to tell you why this is so exciting to me. In 2016, I'm getting my years confused. In March of 2016, I was very fortunate to be allowed to go to the United Nations and participate in that CSW 60, which they give a number to the year each time. I was thrilled. So I actually asked Priscilla if I could do this particular slide. Priscilla, if you will advance for me, please. We now have 5 federations in Soroptimist International. I'm thrilled. We just announced SI Africa Federation just a week or so ago. That's been in the works for quite some time. We, of course, are part of Soroptimist International of the Americas. This whole club, the entire club, Soroptimist International, is just so international. It's so diverse culturally and just in every possible way. It's just an amazing thing to me. There's also SI of Europe, then SI of Great Britain and Ireland, and there's SI of Southwest Pacific. Those are your 5 federations. We are a global volunteer movement. We work together to transform the lives of women and girls across all 5 federations. Our network of around 72,000 club members in 121 countries works at a local, national, and international level to educate, empower, and enable opportunities for women and girls. And I don't know about you, but that is exactly why I joined this club. Priscilla, if you'll go to one more slide for me. Thank you. Soroptimist International of the Americas is our federation. It is, of course, a global volunteer organization that provides women and girls with access to the education and training they need to achieve economic empowerment, our mission. Our tagline is investing in dreams. And of course, the 2 signature programs that we have, Live Your Dream and Dream It Be It, are our dream programs. I will give you a little hint. There is a 3rd one being considered, but that's all I can say. And I'm thrilled, by the way. It's back on the drawing board, so I'm excited. You'll know more in a while. I don't know how soon that will come out, but how we do our dream programs. Of course, if you've been in the club for more than 15 minutes, you probably know Live Your Dream, but I wanted to give you some statistics. Every year, Soroptimist distributes more than $2.8 million in education awards to about 1,700 women all over the world. Is that not impressive? I think it is. Our Dream It Be It program, our 2nd signature program, launched in 2015. And since that time, more than 73,000 girls around the world have participated. And that just makes my heart feel really, really good. It's all yours, Priscilla.
So now we get down to Southern Region. We've been to Soroptimist International and the Federation, Soroptimist International of the Americas, our federation. Below that is Southern Region. SIA has, and I was going to look this up and I didn't. How many regions do they have? Like 26?
26.
Oh, I was right. 26 regions then. So we were one of them. Southern Region has 14 clubs in Florida, Alabama, and Tennessee, but we're always looking to charter more. And our region also encompasses Georgia, Mississippi, Puerto Rico, and the Bahamas. So we can go in any of those places and charter new clubs, and they'll be in our region. Our region is governed by a region board with Governor Michelle in charge, also with the governor-elect, treasurer, secretary, 3 district directors, and the parliamentarian. And your region board provides the leadership training and making sure that the region upholds the bylaws and procedures that they have created. And each officer serves 2-year terms. and they're elected in even years. So this coming spring, when we have our region conference, we will be electing a new region board. The governor-elect, Kathy Blanton, will automatically move up to governor, but everybody else will be either re-elected or elected. You can serve for 2 terms. So they're 2-year terms, and you can serve 2 terms. So some will be able to be re-elected. Our region is divided into 3 districts, aptly named districts 1, 2, and 3. And you know those because in the fall, when COVID isn't around, we have district directors, and that's when the clubs that are geographically close to each other get together and share their ideas and hear the news and what's going on. And that happens in the fall. And then in the spring, we have the region conference where everybody, all clubs from the region, come to be represented and to share ideas and give each other reinforcement, meet new people. And this will all be much better when we actually do it in person. I will say that. So we've been down to the regional level. Of course, the region divided into districts, and all the districts are divided into clubs. They all have from 3 to 6 clubs in their district, I think. And then the clubs have the members, which are you, which is really the basis of the organization, and what really makes our organization is the members themselves. But know that you're part of a much larger organization, and there's many benefits to be in Soroptimist, which brings us to our last slide, which are membership benefits. And we've listed just a few here. Leadership development on top, since that's what we're doing tonight, so we had to list that. One of the best things that I have through Soroptimist is just the women I meet. And the women I meet in my club, in my region. I've gone to many conferences all over the world and have friends all over the world, literally friends. I mean, sometimes I think back and I don't really believe this, but yes, we have friends all over the world. And even if we don't know them personally, if you get on like the SI Voices webinar that I tell you about, you will see the women from all over the world, all participating, all working to a common goal. And that just reinforces what we do all the time. Pat, do you want to speak to any benefits? Or I'm sure you can
unmute
with more benefits than we have listed here, but that's
I would add that under the leadership development, personally, that has been something that was remarkable for me. I've been a little bit outspoken in my lifetime, and I think my sister somewhere on this Zoom meeting is probably laughing her head off because she knows that to be true. But this club has enabled me to expand what I can do. I was president of our club. I was corresponding secretary, then I was suddenly president. I think I didn't show up for that meeting and got thrown into that. And then I was a district director, governor-elect, and governor. And then last year I finished up a 2-year stint with SIA as a board member. And I can't tell you what all of those experiences have done for me. It has made me a better person, one that looks beyond just what you see. And Soroptimist has done that for me. It has opened my horizons completely and opened my eyes to different cultures, different diversities. I will tell you, I too have friends all over this world. And it does my heart really, really good to know that I have friends in Mongolia, I have friends in Japan, in Korea, and all other places, Canada. I mean, I can't even name them all. It's just an amazing, amazing club.
All right, and you don't need to be in the club to have these amazing friends all over the world. Your club members are the start of the friendship, because that's who you work together, and that's who can uplift you and stuff when you need it. So anyway, this is just, like we said, basic Soroptimist 101. There's a lot more you can find. You can go to the websites for soroptimistinternational.org, soroptimist.org, which is the SIA website, or soroptimistsr.org, which is the Southern Region website, and find out. Just go and scroll through and see what you can find out. And if you have any questions, you can always find a past governor to ask. So thank you very much. And
Thank
I
you.
will get out of this and stop sharing. Back to you, Governor Michelle. Make sure you unmute, Governor.
Michelle, who is next, please?
Michelle, you're on mute.
Michelle, who is next, dear? And you're muted.
I'm looking for the agenda. Do you?
I don't have it. Sorry.
Here.
That would have been nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, we don't have our fearless leader, Kathy, with us tonight, so she would have kept us straight.
Okay, Caroline, I believe you're next. Communications. Was that the next on the? Okay, Caroline.
We'll go next.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure who was next.
I have an
All right.
agenda. That's what I show. So we'll go with that.
All right, well, that's what we'll do. And I will pull up my shared screen here in just a minute. And I will go to, I'm looking for, all right. So welcome everyone. I am so happy to see all of you and to speak with all of you this evening. It's really good to see your faces and to actually have a conversation with all of you this evening. Tonight is about sharing our ideas and being able to hear your comments too. But my task this evening is to talk about the importance of effective communication and why it's so critical for all of us. And I'm going to be speaking about communication in broad terms tonight. I know that there are many of you in this audience that are experts in all the social media platforms and how to use them. So my thought process tonight is going to be just speaking about why it's so important for us to communicate with one another. So I was looking for a way to give you an idea that means something to me about how critical effective communication is. It's an analogy. And I like to say that our Soroptimist members are the heart and soul of our organization, because I know that without each and every one of us, we wouldn't exist. We wouldn't be able to do the service that we do and to affect the lives of women and girls in the way we do in each of our communities. But also, communication is the lifeblood of our clubs. And so it's just like our bodies. When our heart pumps oxygen and nutrients to all parts of our body, that's what feeds us. It gives us the ability to do all of the things that we function with every day of our lives. And if we didn't have our hearts, we wouldn't be able to do anything. And with our clubs in Southern Region and SIA, we circulate all types of information to our members. We flow from Tuscaloosa and Huntsville over to Nashville, into Florida, and back and forth all over in our region, our clubs, and from SIA. But you know, and my field is in health, fitness, and wellness, and it's the love of what I do when I work with people in these areas. But if our cardiovascular system incurs a problem, such as AFib, an irregular heartbeat, or a blockage, blood flow can be reduced or it can be stopped altogether. And then what happens? We have a heart attack, or something happens to ourselves and we can't function the way we normally do. But for our members and clubs, our Southern Region, and for SIA, if we fail to communicate with each other, our organization can become ineffective. We can go from an orderly situation to a chaotic one. So that's why communication, for me, is so critical to the success of everything we want to do in Soroptimist. So here are a few benefits to effective communication. And the first two are things that effective communication reduces. And that is, it reduces errors. If our team members in our clubs, if all of our members, and when it comes to Southern Region and SIA, if we don't know what we need to be doing and when it needs to happen, then you know how it happens. Projects can go astray. We need to minimize our errors and keep our work on track. So the critical thing here is to respond as soon as we can. Respond immediately. I didn't do that so well last week. We're working on a project here in Tuscaloosa, and it was my job to respond, and I waited a day. And then I had to go back and hurry up and do it again because everyone wanted to know what the answer was. So I needed to be on top of it. Responding immediately is critical. It can also reduce conflict. Do you remember playing the game Gossip in elementary school and maybe even older? And you sit in a circle and one person starts and then you pass that to the next and the next. And when it gets back around to the last person, they tell what they heard. And I'm pretty sure it's not the same thing that it started out with, right? It was some crazy thing that happened at the end. But that's the kind of situation you get into when you do not effectively communicate. Miscommunication can lead to conflict amongst our members. And so we need to clarify situations early and make sure that we help people work through miscommunication if it occurs. But if we can get it in the beginning, it reduces conflict. And on the opposite end, when we communicate effectively, it increases productivity. It's essential to teamwork. And knowing what to do and when to do it reduces repetition and wasted time. So keeping everybody in the loop can increase our productivity as well as increasing team involvement. If you know what's going on, you feel like you're working together. It makes us work as a team as a whole. So having the respect to answer and to be in the loop is very, very important. And right along with that is respect between all team members, because we want to feel valued. And if we are communicating with everyone in whatever form we choose, I know I feel valued when I ask a question and I'm answered. It can boost motivation and team morale, as well as facilitate a goal-oriented team. I know that as SIA likes to say, we want to work as one. We want to be on the same page. We want to have some continuity. So that's it. When we communicate back and forth, we can achieve that. And it also can increase our accountability. If you're in the loop, people know that you are working, that you're working toward the common goal. So it helps you be accountable if you're communicating back and forth. And then when we allow team members to express their feelings and team leaders to express their feelings honestly, it promotes a great sense of continuity and promotes honesty. And then, of course, if we communicate, we're all better informed. It's an informed team. So those are some of the benefits to effective communication. So a few tips along the way is to be yourself, to tell a story, you know, in the words that you want to, that you normally use. If you try to emulate someone else, it may not work out as well. So you want to choose the language and the communication skills that you have to express yourself. You also want to be available. If people need to see you, if you are a leader that can be out in front of everyone, but as we are doing this evening, Zooming or emailing or texting, however we choose to communicate, we need to be available. We need to be available to respond. So for me, that is just a critical area. And then develop listening skills and promote input from team members. You know, what is said and what is not said is equally important. One of the things that I admire teachers so much for is their ability to read faces. And that's one of the things that I've learned how to do in my teaching career and in my training career, is to be able to read people's eyes, their facial expressions, their body language. And so when we develop listening skills, it's not only what's said, but it's also what you get from all of those other aspects of communication. And we want to promote input from everyone. Again, it makes people feel valued when we are happy to listen to them and to consider their thoughts and concerns and ideas. Simplify your communications. One thing my husband JD works on me all the time is to be brief. And he taught me that when you write long sentences, people get lost. And that in business communication, sentences 23 words or less are most effective. So now I really don't go through and count all of my words, but I am trying to get a little bit better about keeping things simple and short and brief. People can read through it more easily, or when you're speaking, probably the same way. It helps. Illustrate points with real life examples, stories that apply to you, because it makes it personal and it helps people understand you. They know your values. They listen to and get some feel of what's important to you. Communicate through actions. We always say actions speak louder than words. But I think sometimes we're frustrated if we are asked to do something, but our leaders don't do the same thing. We may have seen that more recently in some of the events going on in the world today, just thinking out loud about that. So we want to make sure that our actions follow what we're asking people to do, you know. And just in the sports world, you know, I like to see people who ask athletes to perform to also be able to, you know, live a certain lifestyle and be out in front with a real life role model when we're in front of the public. So communicate through actions. It's a great thing to do. And then finally, the first and last rule of effective communication is to actually communicate. Like Nike says, just do it. You know, even if it's not perfect, it's okay. Just practice communicating and answering. And so when presidents send out an email asking for feedback, please respond. Or when your the region officers do the same thing, your district directors, let's all get in the act and help one another out by responding. And effectiveness will come as we practice doing it together. It's a great way to communicate. That's it. Michelle, can I turn it back over to you?
You may. I have found backup technology. Thank you for that wonderful presentation, past Governor Caroline. I had wanted to introduce you because I spent 2 years with you being my mentor and training me.
Thank you.
And then my computer just crashed, you guys. I could hear all of you and read little notes popping up like you're muted. And I'm like, I can't see anything, like nothing. So that is 2020, 2021 in a nutshell of trying to lead things and do things.
Well, I understand completely, and I'll say that we probably all have a master's or a PhD, and anything that can go wrong this year has happened, has it not?
Yes. I had also wanted to say earlier, if anybody had any questions for our past governors, please type those in the chat box. And we will monitor the chat box to ask them, after their presentation. Obviously, I was unable to do that on the previous presentation, but I did see some comments prior to my screen going dark, although I could hear all of you, that said there was a few people that did not know Soroptimist had a seat at the UN table. So that was, really great information that was shared. And of course, the information that you just shared, past Governor Caroline. So thank you. And now we will turn it over to past Governor Mary Jo Horton. Are you there, Miss Mary Jo?
Just unmuted. Do you hear me?
You are unmuted, so we will give you the floor.
Well, thank you so very much. And good evening to all you Soroptimists that are in my vision at this point. I will have to tell you that what I'm going to be talking about, I don't have a presentation on the screen for you to see, but if you should happen to hear or like anything that I may have to offer, just email me and I can send it to you. I'm talking about how to run a meeting and have fun. Now, we need to explore, first of all, what's involved with doing this. What is a meeting? Well, is it a club meeting? Do we just get together someplace on a certain day at a set time, eat, that's optional, and follow the provided guidelines, which is called an agenda? Oh, yes. But how does this happen? First, this is not just a club meeting, but it is a team meeting. It's a gathering, a huddle, a powwow. It's Soroptimist women ready to take action. And let's not run the meeting. It just might get away from us. So let's lead the meeting. And who leads? Well, usually the president, or in her absence, the vice president. And what are the characteristics of the leader president? Well, she's a daring do, by golly. She's self-confident, she's controlling, she pays attention to detail, she relies on club bylaws and policy documents, and on Robert's Rules of Order to lead an orderly, productive meeting. She has appointed the required committees to accomplish the club goals. And prior to the meeting, she confers with each officer and committee chairperson to assure their readiness to report as provided on the agenda. Now, the president raps the gavel to open the meeting at the stated time and is prepared with an agenda that is the guideline for the meeting. For help preparing an agenda, if needed, the president need only reach out to the SIA website because it's very carefully spelled out there for her if she needs it. It's preferable to share the agenda prior to the team meeting that's being held so that the women are ready to discuss and take action. The president should pace the meeting, ensuring it runs on time. If the planning has been properly executed, this should not prove to be a problem. And her agenda will suggest some items and some presenters. For example, she calls the meeting to order. There's a brief statement of the club goals by the president. The Pledge of Allegiance takes place. That's optional. There's an inspiration or invocation from a selected member from her club. There's the introduction of the VIPs and the guests, if that's appropriate, by the president. Then there's minutes and correspondence. Thank you to the secretary. The treasurer's report. Need say more. We want to know about the money. Then there are individual reports. There's the officers. There may be board recommendations that the secretary will present to this team for action. There may be special committee reports. And then there's often unfinished business. President will usually dictate that. There's new business, and those are the action items that have been brought up to the president or can be presented at the time new business is called for. If there's a program, then the program chairman steps up and takes over. However, there may not be a program, or if it has been scheduled, it can always be presented following introductions of guests so that the presenters of the program will leave prior to the business session. The president is responsible for maintaining discussion, shall I call it etiquette? He has to ensure that discussion continues to flow smoothly by involving all members present and not permitting one or two members to dominate the meeting. She needs to, where discussion is concerned, summarize the discussion, indicate whether there's any progress as a result of the discussion, refocus the discussion that may have completely wandered off the point. She needs to conclude one point and lead to the next. She needs to highlight the important points, and above all, needs to clarify misunderstanding that discussion among the team may have created. Now, at the end of the meeting, the president should summarize what the team has achieved. She thanks them for their contributions and confirms the time and date of the next meeting. So you see, she has not run the meeting, but she has provided to the members good input. Well, you're saying, so where's the fun? Well, members will have fun if the meeting topics are presented clearly. Controlled discussion is allowed. Actions taken further the goals of the club. Individual challenges that benefit the club are willingly accepted. And service to the community is a satisfying, rewarding experience. So as a result of this meeting, fun is when the arriving team member is greeted and welcomed to the meeting by a smiling team greeter. Fun is when the president recognizes the creative ideas and innovative suggestions of the team members that everyone can enjoy. Fun is the camaraderie of the occasion, sharing personal or work-related incidents, renewing friendships, and just being a Soroptimist thrilled to support the lives of women and girls. Fun is participation, participation, participation. And that, ladies, is my suggestion as to how we lead a meeting. Thank you.
We thank you, past Governor Mary Jo, and anybody who's attended any meetings, district meetings, Southern Region conferences, or even meetings in Stewart knows that past Governor Mary Jo likes to have fun. So we know that that presentation will be well heard, and maybe some questions will present as well. But if you haven't been in attendance to a live meeting, make sure you come to Tampa in April. And Mary Jo always brings all the fun to our meetings. So we appreciate you.
Thank you.
And you have some comments in the chat box that they love you and thank you. So there's some comments coming in. So thank you again for that. We will be going back to past Governor Pat McKay now for the roles and responsibilities section of our presentation.
Thank you, Governor Michelle. I think we're getting short on time, but hopefully I can run through this and not lose any of the content. What I'm going to do is talk to you high level about the roles and responsibilities of all levels in your club officers, your committees and your committee chair, as well as your club members. So let's get started. And for some reason, I'm not advancing on my PowerPoint. Well, that's not good. I'm screen sharing. I've got it up. Any suggestions, folks? Michelle, you want to take it down, and you want me to take it down and start over?
Yes, you can try that.
Okay. I told you earlier that this is not my forte.
It's okay. You're doing amazing. At least your whole screen didn't just go away completely.
That is true. Wait a minute. I think I have to hit something else. Share there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
Yep,
that did it.
Share.
No, that didn't. Wait. Yay! It did it, but it took too many. Okay. So sorry about that. Little technical difficulty. So we're going to talk about the officers in your club. And I just spelled out the four main ones, and parliamentarian, of course, president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, and parliamentarian. We're going to look at each one of these and talk about their responsibilities. President, your president, as Mary Jo just mentioned, they are in charge of putting the agenda together. They're charged with ensuring that the club supports Soroptimist International of the Americas mission. And an effective president understands the importance of her role to motivate, manage, and move forward with club activities. If you look on the websites, soroptimist.org from Federation, you will see that there's a whole bunch of information on how to be a president, what's expected. The first thing I will tell you as a incoming president is learn to delegate. Nobody ever told me that, and I ended up doing a lot of things that I didn't have to. I enjoyed it, don't get me wrong, but that's the best advice I can give anyone who's becoming a president. Delegate. And the other one would be don't micromanage. Just a thought. The president's going to direct and conduct the business of the club. She's going to preside at all the meetings of the club and the board of directors. She's going to appoint all of the committees, and she will be an ex officio member of each committee of whatever. She doesn't have to call the chair and say, hey, can I come? She is automatically accepted as an ex officio member. She will also serve as a delegate to all region, district, and federation meetings. So that's a fun side effect. Vice president, I guess I need to put that one up. vice president is different in a lot of different clubs. In our club, for example, we have two vice presidents, one for programs and one for membership. Membership would be the one based on our procedures and bylaws. The membership VP would be the one that would stand in for the president if she could not attend a meeting, if she were ill, or if she chose to leave the club, heaven forbid. But whatever you call your vice president in your club, she's usually considered the lady in waiting, if you will, for the president position. Not always. I think if any of the local, my local vice presidents have signed on, they're probably going, oh my God, did she really say that? It's a good idea to have your vice presidents being trained to take over the president's position. It's a very good idea, because if you become a president, for example, like I did after being just a corresponding secretary and a new member, it's a little daunting, I will tell you. So it's always good to have a succession plan to make sure that your officers and club members are working together toward making sure that you have your club officer positions covered every year. And of course, with this particular position, duties as assigned by the president, as you, I'm sure all the club officers have that on their list of duties. So let's go to treasurer. Your treasurer is a very important person in your club. She handles all the club money. She creates the budget that goes to the president and the board for approval. And she makes sure that generally accepted rules of maintaining safety and accuracy in her bookkeeping methods are attained. She generally keeps the club checkbook, and she pays all bills on a timely basis. She also stays on top of all SIA, SI, and IRS requirements, including Form 990, which the IRS insists on. I think it's November. I don't quote me on the month, but let me tell you, they get very irate if you don't get that one in every year. It has to be filed on a timely basis. So please do that. And of course, other duties as assigned. And going to secretary. Now, I can never be a secretary because I can't keep my mouth closed long enough in a meeting to do that, because I can't write and talk at the same time. It's kind of like chewing gum and walking, or I guess. But what happens at your club meetings, your board meetings, it's very, very important. And therefore your secretary is very important to your club in that she's capturing these decisions, these voting situations, results, discussions about future projects, or even just obstacles that you've run into and you've encountered with possible solutions or directions to take. You want all of that captured so that if you have to go back and go, well, what was said? I don't remember what happened in that meeting. You can go back to your minutes and see what was decided. And that's a very good thing. Meeting minutes should be submitted on a fairly timely basis, because if you wait too long, you'll forget what it was that happened during that meeting. So you want to present them to the club or to the board fairly quickly afterwards, so that they can be reviewed, so that they can be looked at to see if anything was left out, that sort of thing. So moving right along to parliamentarian, and that's the position I currently hold for my club. And I've been parliamentarian on the region level, and Priscilla is the parliamentarian currently for Southern Region. Your parliamentarian is basically, I can't talk suddenly, is your advisor to the president to make sure that the process of a meeting is done procedurally correct. She uses Robert's Rules of Order if needed. It is now online, by the way, so it's easier to find answers to your questions. Now, I know that a lot of people think that parliamentarians stay quiet, but you know, I can't do that. But I don't offer advice unless asked to in a meeting. If a president looks to me and says, how do we handle that? Then I'll answer. But generally speaking, a parliamentarian is also a club member. So I think it's perfectly okay for them to participate in the meeting and offer suggestions or whatever to make sure, you know, that things are being listened to and that sort of thing. So on to committees. Committees are what makes our clubs get things done. A committee is appointed, a committee chair is appointed by the president usually to perform a specific task, an event, or a project. Now, there are some standing committees that are certainly evident in our Southern Region procedures. And I believe our club, if I remember correctly, I haven't looked at the bylaws lately, but I should, that standing committees are very important to the overall operation of the organization, whether it's Southern Region, whether it's SIA, whether it's local clubs. The president generally will ask for a chair of a committee and then appoint them. Or you may have somebody who volunteers to be a committee chair. And then, of course, you get volunteers for committee members. So the committee chair is in charge of that committee. She is the boss, if you will. She sets the agenda time, the agenda, the time of the meetings, the date of the meetings, and she'll make sure that meeting minutes are recorded so that you can take those back to the club and the club knows what the committee is doing and how well they're operating. So that's the committee chair. Okay. Oh, I forgot to do that. There she is with her little whiteboard. Now, committee member, you have some responsibilities too. Committee members, of course, are participating in the committee. We have to show up. We have to show up as a committee member. You have to show up to the committee meeting. You must listen and you must participate in the discussions. Focus on the committee meeting, not on your phone or anything else. And it's very important that you're there to volunteer ideas, discuss, give feedback, whatever. But if you disagree with a point, certainly be civil with it. Not everybody agrees with everybody. We know that. But be civil, state your concern in a nice, succinct way. And if you are overruled, then, you know, that happens. And then you smile and continue to participate with a good attitude. That is every club member's, I will say not just committee member, but every club member's responsibility as well. But no one gets their way all the time. I can tell you on many, many occasions, things just have not always turned out the way I wanted it. But I smiled, kept my attitude in check, and just continued to participate. And that, I think, is the important thing. So club members, yeah, you have responsibilities too. But you just joined. Well, you want to come to meetings, first of all. As a brand new member, if you don't come to meetings, you don't know what's going on or how you can help. So you can't just come forever and have fun at an event. You can have fun, but you got to participate. Our clubs cannot continue to do our dream programs, fundraising, or work in the community without club members helping. So many times I've talked to clubs that say, well, we have 20 members, but we only have about 8 or 9 of them that come to do any of the events and projects. That's kind of standard across all the people that I've come in contact with through Southern Region and SIA club members. If one club, or excuse me, one team member, which we're all on this team called the club, if one member drops the ball, it can cause a ripple effect, causing the overall team to have to work harder or longer to get things accomplished. Now think about that. If you will just remember that when your president sets a meeting or a committee chair sets a committee meeting and you go, oh, well, I just don't really want to go. But if you're a part of that team, you need to show up. You need to participate. You need to pitch in and you need to do your part. Because that's all what Soroptimist is about as far as I'm concerned. It takes a village to get things done, and be a good villager, okay? So whether you are an officer, whether you're a committee chair or on a committee, or if you are a club member, show up, speak up, and participate, and be a part of what's happening in your club. Your community efforts can expand exponentially when all of your members show up. And the personal rewards you will receive from your participation will be well worth your effort. And who knows, you may be the next Southern Region Governor or SIA President someday. And all of these things that you've learned along the way will serve you well. So, thank you for allowing me to talk tonight. This is one of my favorite subjects because I like to see club members, officers, and committees and committee chairs all kick in and participate because, as I said, it takes a village and we all have to be good villagers. Thank you.
Thank you, past Governor Pat McKay. We appreciate all that and how much truth in what she said, you guys, that we have, 30, 40 members and 9 people, do the heavy lifting, and to get excited and passionate about either the committee or just the membership is something that we just love. So thank you for sharing all of that valuable information. We have one final presentation for you guys tonight. You don't want to miss this one because it is about managing change. What? Managing change? What change? There's no changes. That's the one thing that I have figured out in the last 18 months that is the constant in all of our lives is change is the definitely going to be consistent. So without further ado, we'll reintroduce past governor or welcome back past Governor Caroline Williams to manage the stress of change she has there on slide 1. So welcome back, past Governor Caroline. I do believe you are muted.
Now, I got my mute button was disappearing and unmute. Now I've got it. Well, everyone, this is a huge topic and we don't have a lot of time left either, but so I will be kind of pressing through some of this information. But as we mentioned earlier, we've been through a lot in the past year and a half together and in our communities and in our families. And we probably are pretty good at adaptation by now and having to change the way we do things or the way we approach certain things in our daily lives. So I'm sure that we will all be able to have good positive feelings about this presentation about managing the stress of change. And I'm not progressing either all of a sudden. So I'm going to go back out for just a second. Hold on. I've got to go back out.
I think we all need to do some updates.
I updated. I updated this today. Okay, hold on. Let's see. See what I'm doing. Maybe I'll come over here, see what this is. I don't know. Okay. No, that was the wrong thing. Let me go back out one more time. Okay, screen share. Maybe this is. Okay. I think this will work now. Good. Okay, good. All right, so when you hear the word change, what does that do to you? I guess tonight is going to be kind of a rhetorical question, but could it be fear or anxiety or frustration? Do you become depressed when you hear the word change? Well, I did a little research and I found in some studies that 1 in 3 individuals would avoid change if they could. and that's probably a real truism. 1 in 4 individuals say they cannot accept failure if they try something and do not succeed. And goodness knows, I think I've had enough failure in things that I've tried through the years, but you know, you kind of have to learn how to keep going. Almost 1 in 3 individuals say that if they do not see immediate results for their efforts, they usually give up and do something else. But I can give a personal note, and that is that when Governor Michelle and I were attending the our Governor's Roundtable meeting in Montreal in 2019, we were sitting on opposite sides of the room during one particular session, and they asked all those that had positive feelings about change to stand up. And these were the governors and governors-elect. And there were probably, 50 people in the room, and 8 of us stood up. And Michelle and I both stood up. So that was a positive thing. We both see the value in effective change. But change can involve personal life changes that we're likely to experience, such as marriage, a new job, moving, the loss of a loved one, birth of a child. And then I added a pandemic because we've experienced something totally different that I don't think any one of us had any experience in before. But organizations such as Soroptimist undergo change. We do it all the time. We do it to achieve our goals, to be able to move from where we are to where we want to go. And if Soroptimist is to maintain its position as a leading organization, volunteer organization for women and girls, then we have to be able to adapt, to change, to innovate, and to move forward. Now, I learned many years ago when JD and I were dating about change and how one thing happens immediately and another thing how you have to transition into change. You see, change happens in a short period of time. And I'm going to share that with you in just a minute. But we manage stress, the stress of change, by making sure we have a clear vision. We have to define the vision of where we're going, what we expect, and where we want to be. And of course, we need involvement from everyone in our organization to put together this vision. And if you remember when we came up with our goal for 2031, where do we want to be? Well, we're trying to reach 500,000 of women and girls through access to education. SIA asked the clubs and the members, where do we want to go? What were the important things to us? We have to understand the difference between change and transition. And I'm going to explain that with an example in just a minute. We have to understand why change and transition can fail, and then recognize that sometimes we just don't go from, okay, we're going to make the change and boom, there's the change. That there are some stages that people go through when you're faced with change and transition. So change is an event. It's a new beginning, and it happens quickly, and it's experienced externally and visibly. Whereas transition is a slower process that takes time. It's when you leave something behind and you come into that new thing, and it's experienced internally. So my example of change, the event, is something that was on a prior screen. It's called marriage. And when JD and I were dating, he had his 5th knee operation because he was a college football player, and he was always having to go back and rehab and do things from all of that football experience that he had. And so being in the field of fitness and wellness, he asked me as we were dating, how could he, after he had this operation, come back and never miss a beat with his running, because he loved to run avidly. And I told him to get in the deep water and run, with a belt so that he wouldn't have to pound on the pavement when they allowed him to. And his cardiorespiratory system would be right where he wanted to be. And 6 weeks after he did it, he came back to me and he said, it worked. He went out and ran on that track and he never missed the beat. But later on, he proposed, we got married, and where I was a genius before, since that day, I haven't had a lick of sense, y'all. So that is my story about a change in events. I was the smart cookie, and I went to a unintelligent individual in 15 minutes, because that's how long it took to say our vows. That's just my change event. One of the things that you'll notice when you have a change process is there are some obstacles that can get in the way. Does anything strike you about this pie chart? And I point to that which is 33%. It's the human factor that can cause issues with change and transition. It can cause it to fail. Now, there are other things like external market factors, which could be a pandemic. It could be financial factors, technological issues, or just the whole process of conducting the change. So we have to take into consideration that one of the most overwhelming factors are us. We might not like it. And 50% of the human factor is resistance to change. Now, of course, you can have skill issues. You can lack motivation because you don't see the value in the change. And maybe management is not involved as they should be. But resistance is one of the critical things that we have to overcome when going through a change process. So while we may not be practicing psychologists or have studied behavior change or emotional change, people rarely go from one thing to the other in a straight line. There are usually a lot of deviations. In my field, when people want to change behavior, it takes a long time. Some people are not even thinking about it, and then all of a sudden they have to make changes, and it's a long process. Well, it is in business as well. And these are some of the stages of change that you could go through. Denial, which sounds like, I think I'm going to wait this out. It probably won't last too long. And if I ignore it, it might just go away. But since it won't probably go away, one of the things that we can do to help people out of denial is to point out the positive and be good role models and express understanding of what they're going through. There's resistance, and these are the two critical ones. Resistance can be, well, we've been doing it this way for years and it's been working, so why do we have to change? So here you have to separate fact from fiction, explain how it might not have been working as well as we wanted it to, and help them see the positives and move forward. The neutral zone is where it's, what do I do? I can't, I'm a little bit afraid. I don't want to make mistakes. What if I can't do it? We have to move them into the next phase, which is the positives, from exploration and into commitment, so that they're open to possibilities, so that they see the benefit, and so that they're ready, willing, and able to take the chance to make the change. So these are my quick tips. Communicate the vision, okay? And ask for input. We have to have input from our team members. And here's where communication comes back in to make this all very important. Share the importance of change. Why are we doing it? If we're doing it just for change's sake, well, it might not be the right thing to do, but why is it important? Create the team involvement, ask for input, and make sure that people feel valued and that we listen to them. Beware of those obstacles that we pointed out. Make sure that you are monitoring the stages of change, because, people don't move at the same pace. Some people will go straight from or rather quickly, if not straight from it, but quickly through them and just say, yeah, that's great. I get it. I'm ready. And others will drag their feet. Lead by example. Remember, actions speak louder than words. And then celebrate your successes in the end. So finally, all change is not progress, but progress is change. So make sure that, what you choose to change will create progress, that it's valid and that people buy. That's what you want. You want your team to buy in. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Assistant Past Governor Caroline. We appreciate those wonderful tips on adapting to change and getting through change. There was a couple comments of, oh, this is an excellent example of adapting to change when your slides weren't working. And there were a lot of laughy faces in the chat box when you referenced a personal story. So we always love to hear from you. And we know we ran a little bit over, so I am going to wrap it up by thanking all of our immediate past governors, or our immediate past governor and our past governors for all of their great information, insight, and input tonight.